The ATX DAO Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Tequila 512. Looking for a way to decentralize your happy hour? They got you covered. Welcome to the ATX DAO Podcast, the hub for exploring the forefront of blockchain technology in Austin's Web3 community. We connect you with innovators within ATX DAO and beyond as we venture into the world of decentralized technology. So crack open a beer and join us for a front row seat to learn about the innovations and trends shaping our digital future. This is the ATX DAO Podcast. Welcome everyone to the ATX DAO Podcast. We are doing an ATX DAO Roundtable. So we have with us Clifton, Scott, Vardo, Ash, and Luke. Excited to be with y'all today. Good times, guys.
Yeah.
What's up? Hey.
All right. So we've had a few folks that have been on this show so far. So Clifton, we're just hearing about you're one of our founders. So glad to have you with us. Hear about some of the stuff that you did to kind of help create the DAO. We have Vardo, who's been on the show many times before. I think you're our most repeated guest.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then we have Scott with us as well. Scott, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
So I thought what we could do is just do a quick intro for folks, just so folks want to know who's with us today, and then we'll start chatting about some fun stuff.
Yeah. Let's have the newest member of the DAO, followed by the Compromat, of course. Scott, please go ahead.
Just really calling your shot. Yeah, I work with Vardo at Maestro. I'm our head of operations and strategy. I've been in Austin since 2017, moving down here. Just one of the first things I had to do was find a Bitcoin meetup to just find the weirdest people I could. And that's what kind of led me on this long journey here. Before that, for about 12 years, I was in the high stakes poker world. So it was kind of very seamless transition. A lot of those people started getting into either crypto or something crypto related because it just made sense, just having your money digitally accessible.
I feel like there was some kind of onboarding event where somebody went to these poker tournaments. It's like, y'all have to come to crypto, because I feel like everybody I know that's like a big trader has some sort of history in poker. So
it was actually, there was a couple different like just nexus points where there was videos of people showing you, hey, here's how you set up at the time a Circle account, how you buy it, how you set up your own blockchain.com wallet as a way to facilitate the rest of your online gambling needs.
Did you know Galen Hall?
I didn't know him personally, but I know him.
He was my roommate in Connecticut.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at Bridgewater, he taught a poker class.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the poker class, there was like a tournament. It was like 2-7 level or something, and it was Greg Jensen, one of the CIOs, had a World Series of Poker bracelet. Galen has a bracelet. And so basically, I was playing a tournament with like 2 bracelets and like all these people with like 150 IQs. They're poetry majors from Dartmouth or whatever. And I won that tournament.
Nice.
She's just been sitting on that.
Yeah. And then with pure kind of like autistic pattern recognition, I think. And then I went to Vegas with Galen to play the 2-7 World Series poker event. And then I just got absolutely fucking destroyed at like the first table. I was like the first guy.
Yeah, I'm sure there's levels
a pure
to
game,
it, right?
Yeah, that's a fun game.
It is a pure game.
Yeah.
And that's why he taught it. I mean, I think that's why he used that as an example of like how to play, because it's
there's different types of reasons different poker games became prevalent, and like the big ones you see on TV are very simple. You can get into them, whereas that one is much more of this continuous strategy interaction, which is really fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, basically, it's like your hand is probably not that much different than the median hand at the table. So it's a lot different than because you basically you draw 5 cards and you try to make the worst hand that you can by trading cards.
Ah, okay.
And then basically you bluff. You'll bluff by like just basically not trading any. And so it's actually a super fun game.
And at like a basic level, you can be like, okay, I really want 2s in my hand, and then you say like, well, if I have 3 2s in my hand, I know basically no one else probably has one. Okay. So then you can use that information to bluff. It's pretty fun.
Okay. It's like high stakes, go fish.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's how you could describe most of poker, actually.
yeah. That's life. That's awesome. Vardo.
Hey guys. Hello again. Cheers. Thanks for having me. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Maestro, the company Scott works for. He's a first hire here in Austin. It's really cool to have a team, like local presence in a city, even though it's just me and Scott here. We actually had our team fly out a 2 months ago, and we did a podcast during that time. And it was an incredible experience having the whole team together in one place. But yeah, Maestro is API provider focused on UTXO blockchains. So as you guys know, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Cardano, and other L2s and side chains that are integrated with those chains. So we're actually growing quite a bit in many ways, and it's getting hard to keep up. I think we made an important decision to pivot to, we started just on Cardano, we expanded to, Bitcoin and Dogecoin, and it's really difficult keeping up with Bitcoin right now, just given all the money that's being poured into the L2s and the DeFi projects. And a lot of things are like circling back to Bitcoin, and us being like infra providers and having made the decision to go to Bitcoin. It's turning out to be the right decision. So yeah, really excited to continue building for Maestro, and thanks for having us.
Do you want to shill your company a little bit?
So I have a question.
I'm gonna take my shirt off.
So like other API providers, such as like Alchemy.
Who's that?
But like those sorts of
Paul,
those
he
sorts
did
of
not
companies,
say that. Paul, you and me are still friends. We're having lunch in New York. Please don't fuck it up for me.
So far as I know, I don't see that they have any kind of APIs for DTXO chains, right?
They don't have anything meaningful. Like they have some like kind of basic things.
QuickNote has a little bit.
Yeah, QuickNote. I
just
would
a little bit. Yeah. But for the most part, the major infra providers on the EVM chains are not really touching the UTXO side.
Cool. Yeah. So anyway, hope you guys get acquired for just an absolutely ton of.
No comment on that. But we're just building day after day, just continuing to grow. But acquisition is, it's not something we like think about, but we're setting our company up for success. So hopefully that could be one of the paths. It'll be cool to just grow and become a beast of a company as well.
Absolutely.
That's also an exciting idea.
There will be signs though when Vardo just starts posting himself in Brooklyn. Mission accomplished.
All of a sudden, he's wearing Hawaiian shirts. He's like jacked again, and he's like, "You have hair now. What's going on?" It's like, dude, he's going through his Bezos phase.
Just got back from Turkey.
We were literally joking this weekend about like Turkish hair transplants because I was like, "Yeah, I have a little bald spot in my head. Actually, a unsightly skateboarding accident, right? Tried to ollie over 6 stairs, and I did it, and then I did 12, and that did not end well. I ended up catching my fucking head right on the corner, and the surgeon was like, "We're not going to do a skin graft. We're just basically going to do it." So I have a perpetual bald spot there. Long story short, I want you to go make $1 billion, go to Turkey, find the little Turkish man's hair, and then see if it validates it, and then I'll get some transplant from you.
I mean, I'd be down.
Yeah, you're down to do it.
Yeah,
okay, let's do it. Okay, fuck it. I guess it's a 3-way team now. We're going to Turkey to do this, right? I guess we can submit that as a DAO proposal. Do you think that would work? Unanimous voting from everyone.
Actually, I know a couple of people that did that. And it like looks really good.
Yeah. I mean, why not?
Yeah, my receding hairline has been frozen since like I was 24 or something.
No, you're ageless wonder, bro.
Yeah, but you're like a quant, so like it looks okay. You know what I mean?
That's the look.
You're back of house anyways, bro. Yeah. Don't worry about it. No, I mean like the Turkish transplant thing. I'm kind of serious. Maybe we should actually do a proposal on that. I don't know, but like, but yeah, I really do hope like you get what you wish for, right? Like you see the exit that you see for building the company into being a powerhouse, or someone acquiring you guys, and then then you guys go buy a small island next to Zuckerberg or something like that, or in New Zealand and build bunkers or whatnot.
Like Philippines. I'll have to learn MMA for that.
Larry Ellison's the guy that bought the whole Hawaiian.
Yeah,
Zuckerberg just bought a piece of Kauai.
He bought a piece of Kauai. That's right. Ellison, and then what's it called? Branson. They own islands. He owns Necker Island, right? So yeah. So
I think Ellison probably owns the most valuable island.
Probably, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Because it's like right next to Maui, and it's
really?
It's like a big ass island.
Oh wow. Yeah, I'm not fucking.
It's like a sizable Hawaiian island.
Yeah, he's like yeah.
Were you shopping?
Huh?
Were you shopping?
No.
For island?
No,
in between Bridgewater and 60 cap, I was like, I had an extra 100 million lying around. I was like, fuck it, let me just go buy an island.
But then you have 3 kids, and you're like, that's where it goes.
Hey, Cliff,
no, for sure. It's like nanny, multiple in school that aren't in public school. It's like, it's not super cheap.
Cliff, do you think Besson's trying to short the dollar?
I think Besson's trying to do the best to hold it together.
Interesting.
Yes.
You don't think he's in on some crazy secret dark mission? He's actually like trying
No. I think, look, Yeah, I think there's a lot of so I've actually listened to like every long form interview he's given like recently, along with some of his advisors. My general, like, basically, I think the situation is that like Trump's a fucking idiot. Like his economic advisor Moran is an idiot. Navarro is the dumbest guy in the administration. Maybe Lutnick has this like amazing ability, I think, to like get stuff done.
Yeah.
But like all of his ideas are horrible. So it's like so it's just like, you know, like as long as he's not setting the agenda, but he kind of is. But Bessent, you know, on the other hand, I think like Bessent and Rubio are like highly competent. They basically, like, Bessent doesn't have any experience in government. But he has like, I think, a very clear picture of what he's doing.
He's an ex-banker from Morgan, or where is he from? I thought he was
he worked for Soros, man.
Yeah, he worked for Soros.
He was literally the analyst in London when they broke the
bank,
pound.
right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
so,
you think he's just doing this out of the kindness of his heart, or like what is he?
Well, I mean, the thing is that like I think with his political alignment, there's this, I think, issue basically, like if you're like somewhat competent, you know, and you want to make it, like you just go in the Republican administration just because the Democrat Party is just like, I mean, well, there's a lot of fucking problems.
Yeah.
But like, you know, like my wife like has a friend that essentially was able to clerk for the Supreme Court justice just because she like labeled herself as a Republican.
Yeah.
And she's like, these people are idiots. I'm just going to say, you know, I'm going to say I'm a conservative. I'm going to write conservative papers in law review, and then I'll go clerk for them. And so I think there's a lot of that for sure, because I think they're kind of wanting for people that are competent. And, you know, I think a lot of it is Trump has some preconceived notions here. You know, like I think if you took all of Trump's policies agendas and you like shoved them into ChatGPT and said, make this sound smart, a lot of them make a lot of sense. Even some of the trade ones, like like China is a major source of imbalance in the world. They don't basically consume enough of what they produce.
Yeah.
And so it creates this massive trade imbalance. And they have a closed capital account, so they're able to keep their, you know, they're able to manage their currency in any way they see fit, basically.
They can manipulate their currency in any way they see fit.
That's
Let's
right.
just say what it is.
And I don't necessarily think their currency is like way too weak or anything. And not now. It was for a very long time.
Yeah.
Like the history of it. But yeah, no. So Bessent, I think, you know, like I think he's doing the best he can to hold it together. Like he has to like kind of he's kissing the ring in public. But like if you look at the way he says things and the way like his intonations and stuff, it's like pretty clear that he like knows what's going on. Like for instance, with the tariffs, like Trump called them reciprocal tariffs. He called them reciprocal tariffs for like essentially a legal reason, which is that the president has authority to basically enact reciprocal tariffs. If some other country like puts tariffs on us, he can react quickly and put it on them. Like that makes like a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But like essentially what he did is he basically just took like essentially, you know, divided like our net imports from another country divided by gross trade, and then he called that reciprocal tariffs. Like that was like literally the equation, like that divided by 2. It was like, you know, totally nonsensical. And so like Bessent, like one thing that he snuck into a random interview is that he basically said, I had nothing to do with that calculation because obviously like the courts are going to say a lot of this stuff's illegal.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I think some of the market's like optimistic about many of these things, you know, like we literally revolted against England because they were charging us too much tax on tea or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, like only Congress has the authority to tax basically, and tariffs are taxes. So, you know, like, but you know, there's a lot of stuff like where it's just kind of like, well, you know, we have this horrible $2.2 trillion deficit, you know, is it, you know, like, should we have a 10% tariff? Maybe. A lot of like almost every other country has random unfair trade practices, and it's like, you know, not, you know, it's hard to quantify many of them.
I mean, if anything, I do agree with the film tariffs, right? I mean, like, we're producing way too many goddamn Marvel movies, and China only fucking allows for like 5 fucking Western movies in there. Yeah. And it's like Marvel takes up the entire bit.
We do run a massive surplus on the film stuff. So
yes, exactly.
It is
I mean, that's where we start.
Even by their own formula, we should be tariffing ourselves.
Exactly. We need to tariff fucking Disney. That's what it is, you know?
Anyway, but no, it's been interesting watching this stuff. I think Bessent wants to hold the dollar together. You know, during Trump's first term, the dollar sold off a decent amount because I think people just didn't want, you know, and it was like when interest rate differentials were picking up and stuff too. And so I think people just like it's like Trump derangement syndrome, you know? Yeah. I feel like Trump's first term, I had like full on derangement syndrome. I couldn't even think clearly about what he's doing. I was like, oh, you know, like going to convulsions every single time he like got out of a car. And then like this time I realize everyone else doing that, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do that. But the thing is that a lot of other people do that, especially people around the world that control lots of money. And so I think you're basically just seeing like the dollar sell a decent amount. Like when like all this like kind of like stop and starting the economy, supply shock stuff. It's like obviously like it's going to be plus tariffs. It's like basically you end up with like a decent one size and like one-time inflation hit, and then you just end up in like a slowdown in economic activity. So it's like extremely recessionary. So like, I mean, we'll see how this stuff plays out. I've been like omega long bonds, via like options on futures or whatever, just like kind of expressing this view. But like basically, like I've been wrong on that, like basically the whole time, and like it's been other stuff that's kind of carried me. And so like, but it's been interesting seeing how this stuff has been playing out. So yeah, I don't know. I think Bessent's like reasonably. I think he's the guy that's holding it together. Like Trump put him on point for all of the tariff negotiations, which I think is like hilarious. It's like he just has to do everything, just like Marco Rubio's like running 4 different departments.
Yeah.
Like we don't even have the U.S. trade representative, who's an idiot, in charge of the actual like tariff negotiations. And that should tell you something. Like essentially these people were basically were giving Trump bad advice and reinforcing his a lot of his preconceived notions. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how this stuff plays out. I think it'll be interesting to see.
I think with Trump's first term too, it coincided with Brexit. Like I was living in Europe during that time, and that really like got people kind of shook. Like we lived in Europe for 5-6 years, and then all of a sudden everyone got very territorial about their country. They were just like kind of xenophobic out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And they were like, get out of here. Like we'd been living in the same neighborhood in the Czech Republic for 5 years. And all of a sudden they were like, no, we're Czech. Like you're American. Like it was this whole weird dynamic off that. And I think people felt very fractured off of that as well.
No, for sure. And there's a lot of weird dynamics here. Like I think with the Brexit thing, I think it was super interesting. I remember like I was at one of the basically kind of like junior people at Bridgewater, like investment meetings or something like that, basically talking about, because they have like an internal investing thing. And like someone brought up Brexit, and then I said, don't bet against old angry people. And I think that ended up being like exactly right. Cause like that night, basically the Brexit vote passed. But at the same time, I think there's an opposite reaction now, is that people basically like Trump got elected. He did all, like, and I think a lot of his ideas are very popular. And then like he did all this tariff shit, and then basically every other English speaking country seemed to have snap elections right after that.
It's pretty much reverse Trumpism that's playing out in the political arena.
Canada was like plus 40 conservative or something fucking ridiculous.
That's why Carney won.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And so, so it was just like, hey, like basically if you like dumb people, you get dumb outcomes. Yeah. Even though I think like, Pierre, whatever his name is.
Poilievre.
And in Canada, I don't think he's dumb. I think he's reasonably competent. Yeah. But, but essentially the conservatives and fucking in the UK, despite there's obviously a lot of bad things happening in the UK right now. Yeah. Canada, I think also bad things there, if you're Jewish at least. Like Australia, like all the English speaking countries essentially like have just ceded massive, like, the conservatives have just ceded massive ground because people see what's going on here. Yeah. So, so anyway, I don't know. I think it's interesting, and we'll see. I don't know. There's a lot of other like interesting like market stuff.
Well, let me ask you, like, do you think recession 2026, 2027, dollar depreciation, if that's the thesis that you're not really holding through with Bessent, like actually trying to hold it together? Like, I do agree with you, by the way, that he seems to be kind of like the glue that's holding that thing together, right? Lutnick also, like, it seems like the playbooks that Lutnick and Trump, and they've been widely accused about this in the public arena. It feels like a Reagan 80s kind of like policy. Like they're not built for this globalization era that we have here, especially when it hits consumer level stuff. But my question is,
I think Reagan was very like pro-globalist, though. I think for the most part, he really was, and massively anti-tariffs, and it was like you see a bunch of, what's funny is seeing like super liberal people posting like a bunch of like Milton Friedman and Reagan videos on TikTok because like they see what's going on, and it's like, yes, please believe this shit, you people with your, otherwise like kind of like horrible worldviews. And so no, it's good to see, I think it's good to see people, I think, understand that like, like free markets are good and, price fixing is bad. Yeah. But the thing is, Trump is definitely like anti-free market, pro price fixing, if it's not like super clear to everyone already. Yeah. Which I think is sad. But
So, well, like, do you then think like we go into an early recession, 2026 or mid 2026, going into 27?
Well, it's hard to say. So, I think the recession will happen much sooner rather than later if it happens. The thing is, like, if you look at the policy mix, it's like a bunch of policies that they're in a big hurry to implement that are extremely negative in the short term.
Yes.
And then a bunch of policies that are kind of ambiguously positive in the long term.
Yeah, there's way too many permutations.
There's this kind of blanket idea of deregulation, which is like an idea. And it's like, to what extent can they actually accomplish this and loosen the chains on businesses? And it's like, are they listening to small businesses right now? It doesn't look like it, because a lot of them are, basically saying they're going to go out of business on these tariffs.
Yeah.
Because, basically it's like, we add all this value, like it's like that fucking video on TikTok of like with the Chinese music and a bunch of like fat American people like making shoes.
Yeah, exactly. This is the stuff that they're trying to import back. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, why would we ever want to run a trade surplus? Why would we desire a trade surplus from like a poor country?
Yeah.
It doesn't make it doesn't make any sense at all. I think that there are major issues with I think China and trying to rebalance. And I think we could have easily just gotten into a negotiation with them. And with a bunch of you team up with them with a bunch of other countries.
Yeah.
And you say, hey, like, you guys need to rebalance your economy internally, and it'll fix things externally.
Yeah.
And I think like, Besant basically is clued in on this. I mean, even like some of the, the idiot that runs the chief economic advisors basically says it more or less specifically. And a lot of it's based off of this book that was like, it was an ex-Bridgewater and like basically like China professor.
Again, shilling Bridgewater, bro.
Yeah. The book's called like Trade Wars or Class Wars.
Have you not heard of Maestro?
Yeah, but anyway, no, I think this stuff's kind of interesting, and we'll just have to see what happens. But yeah, by and large, I think it's like you have a bunch of negative immediate impacts, and then or like delayed, but delayed by 2 months or something.
I guess the only real question is that, like, does it really like refocus I guess it brings into the conversation of what critical industries do we want to bring back home, right? And what kind of supply chain stuff do we really need to bring back home?
Well, but that's the thing.
But I do agree with you. Nike, one of the sponsors of our podcast, by the way, you owe me a new fucking set of Jordans for me and Luke. You fucking cheap ass pieces of shit. But like, that being said, yeah, I do agree. We don't need to be able to Jordans in the United States. It's good to keep that shit in Cambodia. We cannot do that shit over here.
No, it's ridiculous.
But the point is like, would this at least spark up a conversation of like other kind of critical components that we should actually just have here?
No.
Or just explore in our hemisphere.
But 100%. I mean, like the Biden administration, like I have a visceral hatred of them for I think a lot of reasons.
You don't like old people, bro, with dementia?
Having been working in crypto, it was and essentially watching banks get arbitrarily shut down.
Sure.
I was like, this is the most un-American illegal thing I've ever seen.
Agreed.
And so, like right now, we're basically traded like, a bunch of, like corruption and ineptitude for kind of corruption and chaos. And so it's just like, well, what do you want? And I'm like, those are two kind of shitty decisions. But
corruption's inherently built into any kind of like system like this, right? You just expect the game to be fixed to a certain degree. The reality is like, can they actually just fix the game at the same time? Just get a majority of shit done.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. But so like, Biden administration, and like Congress and Senate then, they basically had like, the CHIPS Act and we actually have had tons of CapEx in the US trying to bring some of this stuff back. I mean, by and large, like Americans are a lot lazier than like the Taiwanese and like, are
not
like,
on this podcast.
As the only Taiwanese person here, I take offense to that, sir.
Yeah. But like, and then the tradesmanship and these sorts of things, it's like, well, I mean, in China too, like these people, like they're really good at all this, at making physical things.
Yeah.
And we're not. And
math and bullshit.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's kind of like, it's just like, can we get some semblance of some critical like national security stuff back here? Yeah, I think that's like totally reasonable, but like it's like, oh, we should just try to get everything back here. I'm like, fucking no.
Yeah,
it's just it's a TikTok video of people of the fat Americans making sneakers, and it's just like, that's absurd.
Yeah,
Damn, dude, I shouldn't be here right now. This is crazy. You're on another level, man.
But I think that's the
He's
weirdest.
Like an evolved version of Rashad.
Sure, that's the weirdest part about those reciprocal tariffs and how it was like distributed. Though, is like, why was it not targeted just to China, just to specific industries?
Well, it was targeted at China, and then it was a blanket,
right?
And the blanket was the stupidest fucking thing you've ever seen. Switzerland and a lot of these countries, these European countries, they have like VATs and whatnot. So it's not totally true that they have 0% tariff, but they do. But Switzerland does have a 0% tariff on the US, and we tariff them 30%, and then we tariff Germany like 20 or something. And Germany has an actual tariff on us. So it's not reciprocal at all. The word reciprocal was used with legal intonation to try to get them to get away with it. And I think the courts will shut it down because it's fucking absurd. Yeah. So yeah.
Bringing it back to the DAO. I mean, thank you for sharing all that. Can we bring it back to the DAO?
What about the DAO?
I'm curious. Like, what was where are things going now? Like, I haven't kept up too much personally, but like, what are the big kind of goals of the DAO now?
There's another membership round coming. I don't know the specifics of it, but I can, I might need to do some work on the smart contract side to get the.
You're still working on it, hands on.
I haven't touched it since the last membership round, but I'm, I can have some time. I can jump in.
Yeah.
Do whatever we need.
I think you went to the member meet last night, right?
I did, yeah. So we have a new round of memberships coming up soon. So we actually are in the process of evaluating all the applications, and we should have the new members on end of May. So we'll have a fair amount of folks that are joining the DAO. So that's exciting. We're going to be bringing them to an event, which at the time that this pod will come out, it'll be in the past, but to our social event on Thursday. So we should have some new faces and new folks joining the DAO. So we'll look to kind of do a little more frequent membership opportunities, because I think it's been probably since our group, the Blue Bonnet, since we've had almost 2 years since we've had a membership round. So excited to bring some folks on.
I mean, I'm kind of excited about getting new faces in here, like getting regulars, like it's kind of nice. I think like everyone has like this unique past, obviously, right? That's just the human experiment. But like at the same time, like so much value out of just like understanding like where these people come from, where the fuck they want to go, and like how crazy are they? It's like, should be kind of really interesting, especially those like member parties. Like it's like a chance for us to like cut loose a little bit and get to know everybody. Like that was a huge fucking like buy-in moment. Like I was like, when I bought in, I was like, well, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna get, but like I know there's gonna be a bunch of crazy motherfuckers here. Went to that thing and had a couple of ranch waters and a couple of beers, and I was like, oh shit, there's like really interesting people in here. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. So I've had a chance to chat with a few of the folks that are joining, and like it's exciting. I think there's going to be some great energy with them. There's a few folks that have shared the feedback that they've been wanting to be a part of ATX DAO for a long time, but unless an NFT went up on the market, they weren't able to join. So kind of taking that feedback to bring more folks in. But it should be good.
Yeah, I heard for a little while there was a NFT membership available for kidneys in the black market for the organ donorships, but like I don't think anyone wanted to part away the kidney with for an NFT membership. But who knows? If the economy keeps going the way it is right now with tariffs and all this stuff, who knows? We might accept kidneys for membership applications. But yeah.
For what purpose?
It's always good to have an extra kidney, bro.
Strategic stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dude, then we can build an ETF wrapper around that, have that listed on the NASDAQ or something like that. Why not? Have someone like Van Eck put it out there. Shout out to Van Eck. Not one of our sponsors, but we would take that money.
Yet.
Yeah, not yet. Exactly.
Yeah. Van Eck does put a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, they do, actually. I do like Van Eck. They got a lot of riz. They're good people. But yeah.
Hey, Ash, can I ask you about Dogecoin?
What's going on with Dogecoin, bro?
DogeOS just announced a really big raise. Curious what you think about that, actually. Yeah.
Say that one more time. You were like facing it.
You're facing the blow.
Yeah. DogeOS, I don't know, you know that project, but they raised like a really big round just now.
Just under 7 million.
6.9 million round. What do you think of like Dogecoin scalability and like what's possible with what they're doing? I mean, with DogeOS, I think we talked about it once, but I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm excited for them. Like I always want to so Jordan and Alex, who are the founders of MyDoge, which is the wallet for, and the same founders behind DogeOS. They're one of our earliest supporters, like with you and Marvin, right? Like you guys are all in the same category of supporting us really early to build a temporal capital efficient swap experience. Not going to talk about what we're doing, but you guys can go into the fucking annals of the podcast and go catch up and see what we're shipping. Yeah, I give my flowers to that, man. Like, honestly, and I also love the memetic value of it. I mean, it's either 6.9 or 42.69 million, right? Like, or 420 million is the only bust kind of thing. I'm glad they settled for 6.9. But I really think that there is something valuable for them to like have an entertainment kind of L2 or L1.5 or L1.69 that they want to ship that would act as an execution layer for a differentiated product set, right? Like ultimately, kind of like how Clifton was talking about, like in DeFi summer, like I came in through that class of like 2019 coming into crypto myself. It was like this startling thing where like, holy shit, this shit works, right? Now it's a question of like, can we expand this like usability set to like other kind of industries and sectors itself? And looking at Dogecoin's infrastructure on the L1, the reality is like there's some things that if you want high execution and high performance of things, right? Like you're gonna have to have that experience elsewhere. And right now it's like you can go to another chain to do that, or you can have an expanded extension of it on Dogecoin. And I think what they're solving for in that case makes a lot of sense. Yeah, man, I really am excited about seeing what's going on. Like we've been public about the fact that like we're probably going to deploy on something on there. Just like for me, it's just like a matter of business logic about understanding like what's the liminal space, right? Like I just think about it as like you don't want to go to point A or point B. You want to find that gap in between. That's where really startups really succeed. Could you hook me up with a beer? And like
you were cooking, I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh no, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Here, that was a Tequila 512 beer. Tequila 512 sponsors of the pod. Actually, they don't make any beer. It's just pure tequila.
Is that your third beer?
Yeah, it's my third beer, bro.
Nice.
I've been up since like 4 a.m. So it's been a long day for me. It's been a long day every day shipping TradFi on fucking Dogecoin, right? That's our mission. But like that being said, like I really am excited for them. And I think that they are catering towards a market of like consumer-centric applications and consumer-centric protocols around entertainment and gaming and going in that direction. And if you really want to do that, you need like differentiated like infrastructure environment for that. And it can be an extension of Dogecoin because it obviously they clued into the same thing that we clued into, but much earlier, is that like it has a lot of consumer level like relatability, right? It's hard to talk about instrumentation and like options and DeFi to consumers where they're just like, yo, like I'm just like literally working on my thing here. And the closest thing that I understand about crypto is probably Bitcoin or Dogecoin. Like going to Scott's experience about like poker, right? Mm-hmm. That overlap is that there was someone that came in there and talked about this, and this like being that same crowd helped you expand into that, right? The question is like, can Dogecoin be in that same crowd and expand into the idea of either DeFi or something like gaming or something like else that comes up on there? And I think that that's the bet that they're making. And I think it's a smart bet, right? I think it's a good thing. And I really am happy for them. And I really am excited about what they're going to ship, to be honest. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So I had a chance to listen to one of their spaces recently. They were talking about what you just shared there. I was curious on the gaming side, kind of what is being built on that yet. Is that still pretty early on, or is that like, have you seen any stuff that's coming out on that?
So I haven't seen so much on the gaming side. Like, honestly, like my approach is kind of like, I don't know, I guess I'm kind of like selfish in this way. Generally, like I think people who know me like reasonably well, like know that I'm very generous with like everything that I want to do. But like in terms of like what I want to do, and like what our company wants to do, I usually like kind of like shelve that into like a shinobi, like kind of like Faraday cage, black box kind of scenario. Cliff, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, might know some things. Like also Vardo might know some things, but like generally,
so me and Scott are just left out.
No. You definitely, you know, Scott and Luke know things. The other pieces of the puzzle, but like with DojoS, like I've been like kind of selfish. I think our team's been selfish about like purposefully so about like focusing on our shit, right? Like, cause like, I guess like my thing is like, I have to be the arbiter of my own fate, right? Like, I guess like everyone subscribes to that credence to be in this place and be a founder or like go on to build in crypto itself. Like, I know you're soon to make that plunge, right? But like, I just think like for that, because of that, like I haven't been focusing too much on like what exactly on the gaming side that they're shipping. But from what I can hear, they are doing some big things that I think is going to be pretty exciting. And it's not also my story to break, right? It's not like something that I would want to say. I don't have an NDA with them or anything like that, but it's just like, I just feel like I just think it's their thunder. They should roll with it. And I know DojoS also wants to come on to the pod. So I think I was chatting with them this weekend too. So we should have them here. And for those of us listening, they should come on and tune in for that episode. But yeah,
It's awesome.
Yeah. How are things on the AVAX side?
Things are good. So I'm going to London in just about 2 weeks for the Avalanche Summit. So pumped about that. First time I get to go to that. This is the fourth one they've had. Pumped to do that. I'm also going to be doing the hackathon after the summit's over. So it'll be my first hackathon. So would love any advice or tips that y'all have on how to stay up for 72 hours and ship something cool.
Cocaine.
Crack.
Also one of the sponsors of our podcast. Yeah.
I would try just sleeping.
The calmer senses prevail, right? He's like, I'm a Mountain Dew Code Red kind of guy. Yeah.
So really pumped about that. So I've been obviously really active with Avalanche Team 1. So getting to meet all the folks that I only interact with, online is going to be awesome. So
yeah,
it should be a good time.
I'm excited for you, man. That's going to be fucking fun.
So we're also hosting BritCock. So last year we had an event called
Wait, hold up. What?
BritCock.
BritCock?
Yes. So Cocky News, a meme coin on Avalanche. It's used to be the number one. Now it's the number 2 meme coin. Ket is like overtaken them. But we're hosting an event. Last year we did Cock Census here in Austin for Consensus.
Sorry, cuck or cock?
Cock, COQ.
COQ. Okay.
Yes.
That's less fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to Who's a Cuck?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So no, it should be a good time. So we're looking forward to it.
That's going to be awesome, man. I really am. I think it's going to be like a good, like pivotal changing experience for you. Like you're going to really you're going to learn what it's like to ship underneath like a sprint of a sprint, right? Like, cause it's like, holy shit, you got 48 fucking hours and you got to push this shit out. You're turtle heading half the time and you're like, fuck, I just need to get this shit out. And you're going to get it out and it's going to be either a piece of shit. Let's be very honest. It's going to be a piece of fucking shit. But at least it's a proof of concept for an early idea that could be having some legs, right?
Yeah.
That's the way these things really work. Bonds are made in the trenches, right? So, yeah. What about you, Cliff? Are you going to do a hackathon anytime soon?
In fact, no.
What? Dude, you got 3 kids and a wife. Come on, man. Fuck that, like, TradFi, Bridgewater, like, high-level shit. Like, come on. Just do the retarded shit with us.
Cliff, what do you do?
Yeah, so I was working with some other guys that I knew from Bridgewater, like doing like some AI investor stuff, which I think was like building some tooling, which is like super interesting. But I think I wasn't really enjoying like kind of coding full time. So I just kind of was like, oh, I'll just go back to trading. And like, basically since like, early, and this was recently, but since like early 2024, I'm like, in my kind of have like a larger account at like Schwab with like a wealth manager or whatever, where like I just kind of like don't fucking look at it. I don't want to look at it, whatever, it's my beta. And then I had like essentially some interactive brokers accounts, which are like more flexible. You can kind of trade anywhere in the world and that sort of thing. And like those accounts are up like 11 or 12x or something like that just in the last year and a half. And so I'm like, so, I had some friends and family be like, oh, how do we invest with you or whatever. So I was thinking about launching like a no fee friends and family fund. And, I think I can run something like that for like 30 or 40K a year in expenses. And that's not too bad. If I have to like register with the CFTC or whatever, like if I start charging fees, then it actually turns more onerous. But so anyway, so I'm like kind of in the process of like launching one of those things. Some other people, it's going to be like limited to like TradFi stuff, I think, because like a lot of these different derivatives licenses and things that you need to do even like crypto derivatives, like you need to have like 10 million AUM.
There's a certain buy-in to like sit at that table for sure.
Yeah. So, but I can get a prime brokerage at Interactive Brokers, which is like what I've been using anyway.
What about with ETFs and like other types
Yeah. So I could use ETFs, right? So I could buy like options on IBIT or approved or whatever. So it's like, so I could do some of that stuff for sure. And I'll definitely consider it. It's just like the you look at TradFi and you just see basically a bunch of like low risk things, and people don't really want to get out of the bed for low risk stuff, I guess, right? But like the thing is that using derivatives, you can kind of like lever anything to be very, very, very high risk if you want to. And so, you kind of have like a bunch of like, things where like the correlations are constantly changing to one another, like gold, bonds, equities, et cetera. And I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there and a lot of opportunities. I think within crypto, I think my chief complaint about crypto is that basically it's just like, it's like 95% just kind of market sentiment, or whatever. I mean, that's not right. I'd say 2/3 market sentiment, 1/3 global liquidity. And so, so it's just like, like there's a couple of strategies in crypto which are pretty interesting. And, like, unfortunately, I can't really get set up a Binance account and this sort of thing without like tons of AUM, and I have to go through some broker. But like, basically what you do in crypto is you take like essentially like a very highly diversified set of governance tokens, and then you take those and you short those versus the L1 on some kind of roughly equalated basis, and mostly high market cap governance tokens. You just short all that stuff and you just end up with like this amazing kind of Sharpe ratio. So there's like strategies like that I just like basically like can't legally run, and so it's just like so it's just, so anyway, I guess what I'm saying is, but like everything else is like very kind of like sentiment, and there's like all these AI coins with no revenue that don't make any sense that are going up to a bazillion percent.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, it's like, okay. And then like, it's like, yeah, I have some fart coin or whatever, but like it's, cause like, one of my boys from the old Swiss crypto fund was like, big into fart coin. And I was just like, okay, I'll get some of that. Seems like a good meme. I'll let that run. But like by and large, I think a lot of the market's been like not super interesting to me lately. It wasn't really like, I think a lot of the magic from like 2020 or like start using DeFi for the first time. And you're like, this stuff's so fucking amazing. Some of that magic has worn off for me. And
do you think it's worn off for
the
whole industry or just for you?
No. Well, I would say just for me for now. And the thing is that like I really think that we're going to start seeing it get deployed.
Well, and what do you think is going to kick that off again? I mean, I can't.
It's hard to know. Well, so now there's room to like basically the Biden administration made crypto essentially illegal. Like any bank, like for instance, like Signature Bank and Silvergate Bank were both like solvent banks that were fine, and they were both like arbitrarily shut down because they offered 24/7 liquidity via Signet and whatever the Silvergate one was. And then our fund had used both as basically as rails to get in and out of crypto. And so it was like I think a lot of that stuff just making crypto illegal arbitrarily, and it's like, is another administration going to get elected that's going to make it illegal again or something? So that's probably what a lot of institutional people are thinking. I think a lot of institutional people are kind of like already bought into like Bitcoin and ETH and stuff. And what we really just need to see is like actual, like I really want to see some stuff where like DeFi is like actually used. Like, and I think it'll be super interesting and amazing when that happens.
I see permissioned rollups for like banks or institutions to be very interesting.
No, absolutely. I think the rollup thing and like totally. I had a buddy from Bridgewater that was starting one of those, and like essentially like what you do is you just get a roll up. What's up?
No.
Do not do that, please.
Not a Bridgewater guy.
Anyway, a lot of like a decent number of crypto people came out of there.
Nice.
But like the like the DY like I think some of this stuff's pretty interesting. Like I feel like basically you get a roll up and all you do is you just put like some kind of KYC thing in front of it, maybe by some like kind of like a third party KYC provider that will keep everyone's fucking identity secret or whatever. And then it's just like, then they say, okay, this is a legitimate person that is allowed to transact in the United States or whatever. And then you can basically build all sorts of TradFi stuff in some kind of like roll-up environment. And you can bridge assets in and out. I feel like that's actually like a great use case. And there's been some startups that have been trying to do that. I don't know how successful they've been so far. I know like for like we made a lot of venture investments at Swiss Crypto Fund, and I'd always talk to all the DeFi people. And one of, like, I think I was doing due diligence on some other, basically some other thing where they were trying to interact more with like TradFi. And I talked to someone that basically was, given a bunch of money by, a large hedge fund that's actually has an office here in town. Yes. UK based, like a very large UK based hedge fund that has a digital assets arm. And they did the venture investment into this company. And this company was like, hey, can you actually put some money like into the ecosystem to try to like, as a proof of concept, obviously, and the incentives are there, right? Like it's, you basically, you seed the startup or whatever, and then they have like this really cool like interface where TradFi people can like KYC in and work on mainnet. But like the people that funded them would put $0 into mainnet just because they're terrified of, whatever regulatory reason. so it's just like, like that was an example to me, be like, oh yeah, even the guys that are investing in crypto won't won't touch the permissionless stuff.
Yeah.
They don't mind, like a lot of these guys like don't mind making investments because, like it's just it's just like a convertible note or whatever that they'd be using to invest in any other startup outside of crypto, where it's a thing that looks like equity and then there's just some kind of like rider attached for a token. There's like kind of like lots of that going on, but like the actual follow up into like actually using this stuff, which is super important, is like they just wouldn't follow through.
I mean, you're getting into like product market fit conversation about crypto.
Yeah, exactly.
And like the private roll-ups. So another one that is like, I think solidified at this point are stable coins.
Yes.
Right. Like last month was a record in volume.
Yeah.
Was it like 1.2 trillion in volume?
No, it's pretty sick. And a lot of that on Tron or whatever. But I think Tron is actually commercial use. So if you look at like a lot of the other stablecoin use, and stablecoins is actually, when I was doing the crypto fund thing, stablecoin use was actually like one of like the top things I was always looking at. And like a lot of the Tron stablecoin use, I don't really know what it's being used for. However, the usage has not been nearly like the Tron usage has not been like super cyclical like on all the other chains, right? And so it's been interesting to
in you have a lot of asymmetry, like there's liquidity going in, but
no. I mean, by cyclicality, I mean kind of like basically like crypto pumps a bunch and more people start using like stablecoin usage basically just starts going up a lot because a lot of people are trading back and forth because the things have gone up. The cashing out thing would be withdrawing out, and I think there's a lot of like. I remember there was like a paper from maybe 2022 or something from like a UT professor that was basically like, like they're printing Tether to like pump up Bitcoin or something like that. And there was all this evidence. And then no one ever said the fucking most obvious thing that refutes the whole paper, which is just basically
that Macron's wife is a man.
Sorry. Or
that's wrong.
Like basically, like you said, whenever the like basic economics thing is like people like, the utility function for like amount of wealth is basically like a log function, which means that like, having 10 times as much wealth is maybe twice as useful to you. And so when people will start basically, selling out of their upside when the thing starts going up, and that's like a natural reaction. And so these things were happening coincident with Bitcoin going up, but it was like Bitcoin was going up and people were just fucking cashing out. And which is like you said, that's actually what was happening. Not like, it was like this like huge kind of fraud or whatever. I mean, not that there's not fraud.
Just to be clear, we're not saying that Tron is a fucking money washing scheme or fraud washing scheme. Just to be very clear to our listeners here.
Yeah, well, I have no idea, but
you can't say that.
What do you mean?
You can't say that right after I say that. You'd be like, well, I don't know, man. The jury's still out. Like, you can't say that shit. I just gave you legal cover, bro.
But it looks like but because it's not super cyclical, like almost like stablecoin uses everywhere else.
Yeah,
it looks like it's actually being used for some kind of commercial purposes, maybe Southeast Asia or whatever.
Yeah, remittances and anything else that's nefariously associated with that, possibly.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was actually being used for trade. And
Scott said that. Scott of Maestro's lead strategy and operations. Yeah, exactly. There we go.
So, given everything you just said, what do you see as the initial, like maybe 1, 2, or 3 use cases for permission rollups? Like, what do you think is really interesting?
I think what we'll see, I mean, like, I think like BlackRock or some of these, like, like Larry Fink is like tokenization, and but the thing is that like, he does run like an extremely, like BlackRock has like 10 trillion in assets or something more. And so like, he does run a lot of like ETF stuff. And so like, I feel like if you just had like, and you can also get economic exposure to almost anything via like ETFs. And so if you had some kind of permission rollup where there could just be tokenized assets and let's say it's just a bunch of BlackRock ETFs to start or something, that's actually like kind of useful, like it would probably end up being used a significant amount, because people want to diversify away, like there's a lot of foundations that like exist on chain and have all their money on chain. Like when we were doing like the fundraising for the fund or whatever, it was like, you're just talking to foundations, which are basically kind of like dead projects with shitloads of money in the bank. Yeah. And they're just like looking for places to get a little bit of yield or whatever. And so, there's just so much of that in crypto. And, I think, you just give those people a permission to a permission chain where they can basically like operate. They could diversify into these other assets using the multi-sig that they use to run their foundation. I think that's actually like something that's just kind of like right there in front of us. And there's
like treasury management 101.
There's already been tokenization for like short-term treasuries and basically like Ondo or what, things of this nature.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of there. BlackRock has like Biddle, whatever.
Vital, yeah.
Yeah, they have that too. That's not opened up to people though, but it could be. And so like I think there's like some interesting stuff there.
Well, I think like Hester Pierce said this thing, like what is it, like a day or two ago, where they said like tokenization of assets for everything like makes it look a lot more interesting for like generally like people. And I think that the future that you're talking about, where it's like not only these zombie chains or these zombie protocols using these assets, let alone like having consumers come on and then like get a position in these assets or retail assets on chain, is a very realistic future that we see over the next 2-3 years.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. Like, so if you're a hedge fund, like a lot of times you need to get a bunch of leverage, right? Because you'll be long stuff and short stuff, and then you'll end up with like hardly any risk. And so you need to like lever the whole thing up a bunch.
Yeah.
And like, like one thing is that like, if you go and, like you're using like fucking Fidelity or, one of these other things, and you're like, I have a bunch of stocks, I want to borrow money and buy a house.
Yeah. Like
the rate that you're paying, like these people are like, is like fucking ridiculous. And, versus if there was just like, you were, getting DAI or using Maker or one of these other collateralized vaults to borrow, to basically like you put in your, your S&P 500, tokens, and you want to, borrow against it and go buy a house, you're basically going to be paying like the risk-free rate plus, like 50 basis points or 25 basis points or something.
Yeah.
And so like, like how much demand is there for that?
I
like
think
a fucking lot,
I do agree.
A lot.
Capital efficiency for HELOCs can go greatly fucking higher using our systems for sure. And you're right.
I think like things that are secured against, things like home equity, there's going to be like, I feel like that's still pretty far away. But things that are like, but if you had like like tokenized stocks or, whatever, like essentially there'll just be like some kind of haircut on that, which is just going to be your liquidation threshold in crypto.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's all you need. And then you'll be able to borrow against that stuff all you want. And you're just going to get liquidated if the thing goes down. And that stuff is super efficient and you'll be able to borrow super cheap. And I think that's one example where I think like a lot of people would actually start using crypto, or, or people's fucking brokerages or banks could just build an interface to where they're, they kind of like, post their S&P 500 ETF and then borrow against it. And it actually just uses crypto in the back. Like all of that stuff is like.
We should ship that on Dogecoin, bro.
Perfect.
Oh, plug for Maestro now. Please, Vardo.
No plug. I am.
This is our 15-minute plug.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I am the plug for Maestro. No, you're making good points from the consumer's angle, I think, in that last part.
Yeah.
But
and then a lot of other borrowing things, like for instance, like tri-party repo, or like banks are like borrowing from each other or whatever, and they're posting collateral as like this fucking third party, and then they're having to agree on things and settle at the end of the day. Like all of that stuff is just like completely absurd.
Yeah, the 24/7 will really be unlocked with like institutional.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like this. The whole borrowing thing is just so much more capital efficient. And because you have like all these MEV bots are just going to be sitting there waiting to liquidate people. Mm-hmm. And it's, like it'll just make everything just much cheaper to run, much easier to understand. And, like less, I mean, not that our systems right now have like that much error, but it's just like way more, it's just not as efficient. It's just,
way more temporally
The system
efficient.
is like obviously superior. And it's just like, how do we get these people to use these things is I think like, is like the actual question.
Well, you mentioned Silvergate and that whole like thing,
and signature,
and then when like Silicon Valley Bank and everything was going on at that time,
Silicon Valley Bank legitimately collapsed.
Yeah,
I think the other ones, it was like the government under the cover of night shut down banks arbitrarily, using the SVB collapse as cover.
But USDC started depegging over a weekend, and then they couldn't actually come back until Monday.
Yeah.
And I feel like people understood like, wait a minute, what's happening here?
We got in. Yeah. Well, because all the 24/7 liquidity went away.
Right, exactly.
And so they just had to wait for the banks to open. Yeah. And it was, I thought the USDC thing was like totally fucking ridiculous. Yeah. At the fund, we were in on that trade. We made a bit of money on it. Didn't buy that.
Well, they
You
shut
go
down
on
Sen and Blick, right? Because like I think they had Sen as their payment rails or whatever for it to like
That's
do
right.
that, and then Blick or whatever is the other fucking party bank or whatever. I forget what it
Yeah,
is. Like,
right. Sen and Signet were the
Yeah.
two. Yes, and so right, and yeah. It was just fucking, it was just super crooked, and so I still resent that stuff very much. Then they were like they're like a lot of they were calling the banks, like the bank regulators are calling the banks and like not putting things in writing to avoid fucking FOIAs. It was just like super fucking corrupt. Like Nick Carter has some pieces on this that I think are kind of interesting if you just want to read up on a lot of the dirty details. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing to see how things can go awry and we can build better systems now, right? Like, especially all the things with Trump, like, irrespective of the tariffs, like, it seems like there's a lot more of a crypto-friendly administration right now, at least. That's the case. Hopefully, a lot of these things can get built out. I feel like, Vardo, you're positioning to the mic. Jump in, buddy.
I mean, I think it's not necessarily just Trump. I think it's it's obviously like his administration is crypto friendly, but I think the Democrats now see that like they basically had some kind of crusade against crypto, in which they were going to win 0 votes and they were going to lose a ton of votes. And then I think now they realize that was super folly and like why would you do that? That was so dumb.
Well, just showing like how big of a difference was that. It was like 2.5 years maybe between what you just described with them shadow shutting down those banks that were servicing crypto, mixed with Trump showing up at Bitcoin Nashville and talking about Operation Chokepoint 2.0. And I was like, for 2.5 years or whatever, that's an insane switch from the government.
Yeah. The sovereign wealth fund stuff, I do think it's like, we run like massive trade deficits and whatnot. And I don't think the trade deficits are necessarily a bad thing. I mean, basically we're printing dollars and we're getting all these valuable goods from people. So it's like, obviously there's some imbalances there, but like, I don't know if we should be running a sovereign wealth fund, but having competent asset manager type people that are in charge of selling off US assets, such as, deciding to maybe keep the Bitcoin that we already have or whatever. Like I feel like you do want to have professionals there, and maybe you call it a sovereign wealth fund, but the idea that we should be like taking taxpayer money or money that could go back to taxpayers and just like, forming a fund with it, I think is kind of ridiculous. And it's also kind of just like, it ends up being a nepotism thing. It's like, because it's like a sovereign wealth fund ends up just investing a bunch in like private equity and hedge funds. And it's basically going to be people's buddies that are going to be getting these like fat management.
Yeah, the 2 and 20 fees are fucking huge there. I agree.
Yeah, so it's like, and it's mostly the 2, it's like,
yeah.
So anyway.
So I guess we're ending on a high note,
right?
Yeah.
Is that a high note?
Is that a question?
Well, it's always a high note.
2025 nuclear holocaust. That's mine. Yeah, I don't know about recession, but we're toast.
Yeah.
I gotta ask. I know
gold's pricing.
Yeah, we're talking about like some fucking woo-woo internet money, but I think like nuclear fucking power is about to go crazy.
Well, I gotta ask, like, what do you think about, like, I know we're cutting up short in time, but like, or overtime, but like, I gotta ask also about the idea of like, what do you think about getting mining back into the United States?
Like crypto mining?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. Thoughts on other money, but yeah. No crypto.
Well,
mining.
I would love to talk about that, but that I feel like we'd talk about like an hour or 2 hours just on that itself.
Yeah. No. The crypto mining stuff. Like wherever power is super cheap, it makes sense. Like
but power is not cheap here, obviously, right?
Yeah, Bitcoin mining is an energy like price game.
Yeah, it's like I think it's like proximity to hydropower. In Texas specifically, there's like a lot of like basically hydraulic fracturing, rigs that just spit off lots of gas and burn it up and they don't use it for anything.
Yeah.
And so there's been some like startups that have been trying to like, I think, take advantage of some of that and use it to run like Bitcoin mining. Obviously, ETH was like a pretty big mining thing until it's not. And so Bitcoin's kind of like the last thing left where it's using like lots of power. And, I mean, I don't know, there's like questions on whether like that's an actually is that like an economically useful activity? I don't know. I'm not positive, but I'm also not like super negative on it.
Well, if you're building value capture around an asset, finally, me and Vardo was at a conference earlier, and we were talking. There was a user there was an engineer in the audience that asked a question about like, is there ever any concern about the fact of like other countries that like basically have cheap power that run all the mining systems that are there for one of the assets that we want to try and build extended kind of instrumentation around, let alone payment rails around and anything and everything? Like, don't you think that maybe, dumb guy question here is like, maybe we should make that a strategic point to have it be built more in our backyard in Texas. Fuck the rest of the others. Other
Republic of Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if we, if it makes economic sense. Well, the thing is, I don't think the government needs to subsidize any of that. I feel like the private sector will do it if it makes economic sense.
Yeah.
So
it actually makes little economic sense in many ways. Like Bitcoin mining is essentially a call option on Bitcoin's price. Like that whole business just bets that Bitcoin.
Well, but I think also it's like the race to the most efficient hardware. Like if it's just basically some Chinese
ASIC
that are making like these ASICs that are better than everyone else, then we have to like compete with them on that. And it's just basically like access to those ASICs are going to be the people that are going to be able to compete. Because it's like access to the very top ASICs and very low energy costs is like the table stakes. I feel like having a better chip industry here would be great. I don't think it's like everyone's opinion is different on this sort of thing, so I don't know. Take it for what it's worth, but I don't think it's but like what percentage of fucking Bitcoin do Americans hold? Probably like a fucking lot.
Yeah.
So between like MicroStrategy, fucking Tim Draper.
Well, I think MicroStrategy holds like, what is it, like 1% to 2% of all the Bitcoin?
I think it's over 1%. Isn't it over 500,000?
I think so. Yeah. That just makes sense, like for us to have it possibly here.
Well, we have people have a lot of Bitcoin here, and it's like if people want to go do like lots and lots and lots and lots of work to try to generate some marginal Bitcoin, and they'll never catch up to us. It's just like, well, maybe us just having, us kind of having the kind of the capital is better than having the TikTok factories or like fat old Americans are making.
I gotta ask the other question too. Like last week, and I swear this is like my last question to the audience is to think about, and obviously everyone here, is that like me and Vardo chatted over the weekend where I was building this bar, and like, we had Hunter Beast over here like on the pod like last week, right? He's put up Bit 360, which is talking about quantum resistance for Bitcoin. It was one of the topics of discussion at the conference that me and Vardo went to. But that being said, like, what do you think about like securing this asset around there?
Yeah,
I'm curious to see what the TradFi, well, like what the financial thoughts are and the engineering infrastructure.
So quantum stuff's actually coming a lot faster than I thought it would. And so I don't know if there's any great solutions for Bitcoin. So, I'm also not like extremely well versed in it, but yeah, no, I for sure, I think there's a bit of an existential risk, and they're just going to have to, like, basically people are going to have to migrate. And if they don't migrate, shit's going to have to get locked or something like this. And all this has to be done at the protocol level. It's going to be a mess.
Your thoughts, Scott? Your thoughts? Luke?
Well, there are a lot of things about, the migration process and the fact that there is like open PRs already, and like, Hunter Beast is like narrowed down to a specific set of NIST compatible signature schemes, and like people are more or less agreeing on signature
Can you
schemes.
dumb down for me? I'm a little stupid. Please. Down to a golden retriever.
No, basically it's signature schemes that prevent, like, if you have your Bitcoin in those addresses that follow those schemes, then quantum computers cannot break it, because it's not RSA encryption, which Shor's algorithm as part of a quantum computer would be able to break. Exactly how each of those schemes work, like, I don't remember the details, but that's effectively what the fascinating problem, among others, of post-quantum cryptography, and it was brought up by Hunter Beast at OpNext, was Satoshi's wallet, the 1 million Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, basically, like, you're going to have to lock. You're literally just going to have to like lock.
I think there are more interesting solutions about that, actually.
Really?
One of them is, well, there are a couple of proposals. One of them is use it because we're going to reach the 21 million Bitcoin, right? After they all get mined. And so right now, where are we at? Like almost 20 million that's been mined.
It'd be used those to like secure the.
So there could be additional mining rewards, and you just basically like drain that wallet. And I think that's brilliant. You're going to have very hard time consensus with the Bitcoin ecosystem to get that. But I think that's a very interesting thing to think about. The other one is to just, keep it locked up. I think there's one more solution around it.
Yeah. I feel like
it was to distribute it to like existing wallets. Mining subsidies is a very
I think like, I don't know. I've probably been most aligned with like Ethereum ecosystem stuff over time. But yeah, I feel like the view from that side is more or less like, hey, just like, like the mining rewards thing is actually super important for long-term security, and that you should just keep doing it and like using the Satoshi wallet for that and basically locking it to traditional transfers, would be good. I think there is somewhat. I mean, I do think there's going to be kind of a mess with all the other wallets when it comes to like the quantum resistant stuff, though.
Yep.
Like people are going to have to migrate.
Exactly, they have to go to a QR resistant wallet.
Yeah. So it's like, how does all that go down? And it's just like that's actually like a super. I think that's I think it's like getting the social consensus around that, right? Is gonna be
Yeah, but the reality is like it needs to happen, right? Like at some point, you need to decide and make the fork, and people have to start migrating. Right.
If it doesn't happen now, it'll happen sometime.
Yeah.
Right.
It either start happening now or happen way later, which is a higher risk because quantum computers are, improving at an exponential rate.
Yes.
So it's better to just start that now and go through the hurdles now than to wait.
Yeah. Bring this back to a Austin commercial and an ATX DAO commercial. Like Bitcoin Plus is having like a deeply technical conference here in the next few days in Austin. And it's just like one of 3 or 4 conferences around the world talking about ideas like this. Not only just quantum resistance, but like mempool stuff. Like it's pretty exciting to be in a place like this where people are talking at that deeply technical level.
Bitcoin Plus, not one of the sponsors of the podcast. Not that we'd want you anyway. Blockspace. Charlie, yeah, exactly. Tequila 512 and Lucy's are our sponsors. That's really what it is. But like, no, I mean, I think I appreciate you guys sharing your thoughts on that. I mean, it's one of those questions that like is just hanging over my retarded head to just think about like everything needs a certain degree of quantum resistance for this to happen. This tech is getting built out. There's a certain OPEX required for you to build and do this shit. The question is just like, how much does it cripple EVM? How much does it cripple Bitcoin or BitVMs and stuff like that? Dogecoin, AVAX, Polkadot, Cardano, everything than anything. Yeah. Once again, we're ending on a low note or a high note. I'm sorry, high note.
High note.
I just want to make one comment on that. Like I look at that in kind of an optimistic light, like these like very high risk scenarios as like an opportunity to like
people to work together.
For people to work together for a reason to innovate, arbitrage opportunities for trading, making money, like reasons to create companies. Like these are actually like optimistic inherently, in my opinion. So yeah, it's very scary. A lot of people could lose Bitcoin, but also a lot of people could like come up with brilliant ideas around how to solve this problem.
So are you thinking that the solution might come out on Dogecoin, if anything?
That would be actually pretty epic. I know you brought that up recently.
I didn't bring anything up.
Okay,
I might have
sorry.
one moment of like lucidity. The rest of it is just me blacking out throughout.
We were laying in bed together. You brought it up. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Don't tell the wifey.
Awesome, guys. Well, this has been fun.
Awesome,
guys. so
Great.
let's go and wrap and kind of just share where folks can follow y'all if they want to follow you on Twitter, that kind of thing. Clifton, where can folks follow you?
I'm just like Clifton K on Twitter.
Nice.
Like CLIFTONK.
Number 1, Scott Augustine. Mostly retweeting Maestro stuff.
Vardaris_crypto.
You can just follow me at the ATX DAO pod stuff. I have nothing noteworthy to say in my Twitter, or generally in life, like as my peers and my wife has made me know. So definitely the pod is where it's at. So yeah.
Love it. Awesome, guys. Well, this has been fun. Thanks so much everyone for being on, and
thanks.
hanging out.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the ATX DAO Podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, subscribe, and share the podcast with your friends and colleagues. To learn more about ATX DAO, visit us at atxdao.com and follow us on X, Farcaster, and LinkedIn at ATX DAO. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.